Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're joining us in. Welcome to our fourth Spotlight session titled Renewing Multilateralism and the Rising Prominence of Africa. It's in a series of 7 sessions we've been holding from every weekday at 9 a.m. ET during the big brainstorm. Today, we'll be spending time together up until 10 a.m. ET, sorry. My name is Kelechi Achinano, Next Generation Fellow for Justice at the UN Foundation, and I have with me today a stellar panel of speakers, as well as many change makers and innovators who have been with us since the big kickoff of the big brainstorm last week. There were over 250 of us who joined to explore, prototype, and launch initiatives to tackle some of humanity's greatest challenges in the lead up to the SDG Summit in September. We also launched the 24 innovators who will be leading their teams in brainstorming around the solutions. 14 of these innovators are from Africa, which is precisely why this cross-cutting spotlight is so important. At the UN Foundation, we are committed to supporting young change makers in shaping the global agenda to tackle the world's most urgent challenges. Our future agenda program is designed to deliver impact for the next generation, which are young people under 30 who make up half the world's population, and future generations, the 10.9 billion yet to be born in this century. Most of them will be born in Africa and Asia. These spotlight sessions are one way to support us through thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and policymakers sharing insights and engaging in discussions with us. Now a bit about our spotlight session today. We'll kick off the spotlight with a fireside chat with Professor Landry Signé, Senior Fellow Africa Growth Initiative, Brookings Institution, Jawhratelkmal, I hope she's joined us, founding member, Sudanese Women Economics Association, and Mayowa Kuyoro, partner at McKinsey, Nigeria. Then we'll move on to a second fireside chat with Nathalie Gabala, Executive Director, Pan-African Programs Mastercard Foundation, and Emmanuel Ametepey, I hope I got that right, Executive Director of Youth Advocates Ghana, and the convener of the African Youth SDG Summit. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to respond to some questions, so we have ample time for Q&A segment, populated with questions by young people through the chat. So this is me inviting you to please ask your questions through the chat. We'll end with a quick fire round where all speakers will be invited to respond to the question, what are key African interests in reforming the global order? Now, with a bit of framing done, let's dive straight into the session for today. With global demographic and economic dynamics shifting, the future will be heavily concentrated in Africa. The continent will play a key role in any future efforts at global cooperation. Considering the current challenges to multilateralism, greater African leadership and innovation are needed to inspire new multilateral formats and approaches with a focus on the next and future generations. So my first question will be directed at Prof. Landry. It's a bit of a mix of questions together, but I'm sure you've got it. You have been studying how institutional and policy change occurs in Africa. So what are, in your view, the main challenges and opportunities to address current and future needs of the continent? And what role can international, regional, and national actors play in making the required transformation for the 21st century? You have the floor, Professor.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much, Kelechi, for a wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to have joined the group. I also want to highlight the wonderful work of Pele and Akshani for bringing us together, and all the other distinguished speakers who are with us today. So let me perhaps put some things in context. The topic of today, I was very excited when I received the message about the topic on renewing multilateralism and the rising prominence of Africa. As a matter of fact, by the end of this century, Africa will have about 40% of the global population. From 17 in the recent year and to about 25–26% by 2050. So, which means that the future of the world is heavily African. That's the first dimension to take into consideration. And in the architecture of the global governance and of multilateralism, it is extremely important to take those trends into consideration, or at least if the world also is moving toward a more democratic, inclusive, and representative governance. So that's the first point that I want to make. So the second point that I want to make is probably related to the potential of Africa. By 2050, Africa will have a combined consumer and business spending of more than 16 trillion US dollar, and only by 2030 of about more than 6.7 trillion US dollar. So the fast population growth explained partly that growth of business and consumer spending, but the rise of income as well. So we will see a shift from the perception of Africa as the home of many of the global challenges. Everyone knows how the Economists wrote The Hopeless Africa in 2000, to understanding that we have many African stories. We have some of the fastest growing countries in the world, but we also have some laggards. So we also have some countries which are left behind, or some people who are left behind. So this brings another dimension of the incredibly importance of taking into consideration the many narratives that the continent faces. Some of the trends, again, where multilateralism can also play a role. So typically, when people speak about Africa, they speak about the industrialization, especially when you speak about economic growth or manufacturing, because most scholars will think about, let's say, traditional manufacturing. But they overlook something that we explore at Brookings, which is industries without smokestacks, where exports have grown 6 times faster than traditional manufacturing. And those industries include agri-processing or ICT-based industries. So aligned with the 4th industrial revolution, with digital transformation, among other. Another, meaning this year is the focus of the African Union for this year is the African Continental Free Trade Area. And as you know, it was launched barely 5 years ago, or at least signed barely 5 years ago, 2018 signed. In 2019, a sufficient number of countries ratified, and it was finally launched in 2021. So the AFCFTA is another illustration. The speed of ratification is another illustration as to why and how multilateralism is evolving in Africa, among other points. So I wanted to start with the phenomenal potential of the continent. The continent is really in a trajectory and in a path to achieve an incredible potential. Many people sometimes ask me, especially related to AFCFTA, is it really necessary? For a continent who has about 54 countries recognized by the United Nations, or 55 members of the African Union, and which represent barely 3% of global export and global trade, it's not even a question. Collaboration, multilateralism is key to Africa. Collaboration and multilateralism is also critical for the continent because it brings about the opportunity to address some of the challenges, whether we speak about climate change, we speak about poverty reduction, we speak about finance, the interaction with the World Bank, the IMF, among other, whether we speak about fragility or the role played by UNESCO, UNICEF. So the question of multilateralism from a continental perspective, from a sub-regional perspective, or from a global perspective, there's no better time than now for accelerating engagement through multilateral collaboration. I have so much that I can say on this topic, and I typically speak for some of my courses, executive one, I can teach 10 hours per day for an entire week. But I think in the interest of time, I will pause now and I'll be happy to step in again later.
Okay, so we're moving on to the second fireside chat. And my first question goes to Ms. Nathalie. You represent Mastercard Foundation, currently implementing the ambitious Young Africa Work Strategy. What do you see as the main challenges and opportunities of the continent? How do you work with young people and how do you invest in the future? You're still on mute.
Yeah, I realized I was on mute. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here today and impressed by the panelists. Really, I think if there is ever a demonstration of what Africa and the potential of Africa, we have this around the panel. So maybe before I start, I will tell you a bit more about Young Mastercard Foundation and explain what the Young Africa works, what we've learned about in the implementation of our strategy over the last 3 years, and what we believe that might be different in our approach here. So, I mean, we talked about the demographic and the case for, African and investing in African youth. It doesn't need to be made anymore. I think we're all convinced about it. And this is the reason why in 2018, the board of the Mastercard Foundation really decided that it will dedicate all its resources to support 30 million young Africans to access dignified and fulfilling work. And when we made this commitment public to the world, we made this commitment with few other commitments. The first one was to say, we strongly believe that African, and especially African youth, have the solution. They know what is required. They are already creating, innovating in their community, in their environment solution. But what they need is funding. What they need is somebody who is able to elevate their voice. What they need is somebody who can act as a convener and bring around those tables, those young people, the public sector, the private sector, to really scale and implement those solutions. So to be able to do that, the foundation needs to move closer to the young people. And it was a big transformation of the organization because until 2019, the foundation was mainly operating out of Canada. And we opened over the last 3 years, 7 countries office on the continents, where we said we are going to facilitate this dialogue and really put the young people at the center and define together where are those opportunities for jobs. The commitment that the foundation made at that point also was to say, okay, if we are really true about listening and backing youth-led innovation and African institution, let's put a target to this. Let's hold ourselves accountable to a KPIs. And we also announced that 75% of the partner of the foundation will be African institution. And it's not always easy. Because the easiest way is always to say the institution is not ready, the institution doesn't have all the operational model to implement. But we're really holding ourselves accountable to these KPIs and daring to do the hard work, to really work with those African institutions and build the capacity with them. One of the other targets that we set for ourselves that was quite ambitious was to say that 17% of those jobs will be for young women. And we all know that reaching young women on the continent, especially in specific sector like ICT that has been mentioned in on this platform, it's sometimes very difficult. And it takes really the intentionality to really understand what are the key barriers that those young women are facing to be able to provide an holistic approach and to reach them. So that's also, I think, was also determinant in the way our approach were shaped. What we've learned about this strategy over the last 3 years of implementation and through the opening of our country office was that, as it's been said before, provision at skill and education remain fundamental. We have to start there. Whether it is formal education or informal education. We have to equip the young people. But when we have to work in equipping the young people, not for the jobs of today, but really keep in mind the job of tomorrow. Because we all know that the world of tomorrow will be very different from the world where we're living today. The second element of what we've learned also was that the transformation of the continent still lies in the transformation of the agri-food system. But we really need to move from primary production to really the transformation of our resource. Young people actually are not attracted in agriculture at the primary level, the hard agriculture. But if we are able to work with them, we've seen more and more interest in terms of off-farm activities and activity around the transformation of the agri-food. So how can we support there is also an element of focus. We've learned that the creative industry attracts a lot of young people. There is, contrary to agriculture, there is a natural attraction. And actually, those young people are already on the global scene when it comes to the creative industry. So we have to ensure as a continent that the value that they create through their different innovation and creativity is not accrued outside of the continent, right? So once again, it's still a space that is quite green in Africa, and there's no mechanism in terms of access to finance, etc., to support the young people, but we have to understand and go there, because this is where the young people are naturally attracted. We've also learned that the digital economy is not only an enabler, a catalyst of job creation in many sectors, agriculture, health, education, and we've seen an acceleration of it through the pandemic. But at the same time, the digital economy itself has the potential to create jobs. Somebody mentioned it earlier. You know, ICT has the potential to create job for exportation for the world. So how do we prepare the young people to really compete in that space and be equipped and trained? Climate, obviously, I mean, we all know that it is an urgency to understand how to adapt to the climate, to climate change. But at the same time, there might be an opportunity for Africa, given our natural resource that the continent has, given the use of its population. There is certainly an opportunity for the continent. And we've seen it through COVID, the level of innovation, creativity of the young people. If they were given the opportunity to participate in the climate space, if they were trained to understand and participate in that space, we will see a number of innovation also, with young people able to create solutions for their community to adapt to climate change.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
gender.
Okay.
Sorry, I passed my time. Sorry.
Yes, please. Yeah, but it will definitely come back, so you can finish your statement. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I'll go over to Emmanuel. My question goes to you. You have a lot of experience in engaging young people to implement Agenda 2030 and the SDGs. In your view, how can we take new approaches to multilateralism to engage young people, particularly in Africa? What are the challenges and opportunities of multilateral cooperation to address current and future needs of the continent? Over to you, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Kelechi, and good afternoon to everyone from Ghana. It is a great honor to join this session, and thank you very much for the invitation to participate. First of all, let me acknowledge the contributions that have come from my co-panelists, and to just build on the point by saying that from my perspective, and for the fact that we have worked on the continent of Africa with many young people, having organized the African Youth SDG Summit in Ghana, in Ethiopia, and now in Zambia, there are quite a number of emerging lessons that we are learning from these engagements. And we're very proud to share some of the lessons that will ensure that we are able to build better into the future and ensure that we make a great recovery and also develop new approaches in terms of how we engage young people on the continent. First of all, one of the most critical lessons that we are learning in this regard has to do with the fact that there's a need for a trusted relationship among multilateral organizations and young people. And what do I mean? If you look at the continent of Africa, we are blessed with so many institutions, whether it is from the African Union level, or whether it is at the regional blocks, or even at national level. There are so many institutions that have been established to work in the interest of the citizens, including young people. One of the things that we have learned is that there is always the level of disconnect between young people, their interests, their aspirations, and also that of national policies and programs, and how stakeholders generally, whether it is within the UN system, whether it is within the African Union or other multinational corporations, how they see young people. I must acknowledge that there has been that high level of recognition of young people's contributions to development. But the challenge has always been the level of trust between institutions and young people. So you will have institutions designing programs targeting young people, acknowledge the fact that young people must be at the forefront, must be the lead agents in the implementation of those programs. But oftentimes, when it comes to the actual implementations, you will see that young people are left behind. They are not trusted enough to be given the mantle. They are not trusted enough or to even co-leader in order to ensure the successful implementation of whatever interventions that are being designed. And for me, one of the things that if we are looking at the future, then multinational corporations must design programs in a way that ensure trust between stakeholders and ensure trust between young people and other actors within the space. The second thing that has already been mentioned, but I want to emphasize, has to do with the level of meaningful collaborations and partnerships between young people and multinational corporations. We have learned from experience and from the work that we do on the ground that, again, there is that level of how do we work together? How do we ensure that we can leverage on the strengths and abilities, capabilities of stakeholders to ensure that we have meaningful youth development programs across the continent. There's the need to move beyond just the rhetorics of saying that we must collaborate and have defined rules for each partner within the ecosystem that is being worked with. If you take, for instance, in Ghana, we have a very vibrant youth ecosystem. We have many people who are active in the area of agriculture, for instance. We have many people who are very active when it comes to climate change issues, when it comes to health, education, and all of that. And then we have several levels of multi-stakeholder partners within the country, whether it is the African Union, the World Bank, the IMF, or even our national agencies. How do we foster meaningful collaborations that will ensure that innovations that are emerging from youth organizations can actually get the needed support to be able to scale them up into a level that will benefit society? So these are very critical ways that we need to look at into the future. The third thing that I want to emphasize also has to do with the need for multilateral corporations, organizations to redefine their funding model. So we know in Africa, and for that matter, Ghana, there are so many funding facilities that are available, and most times these fundings come from multinational corporations, IMF, the World Bank, the African Union, the African Development Bank, other bilateral organizations, the US, and several other. But we also know that our national government are known for misappropriation of resources. Despite this corruption and misappropriation of resources by national officials, we still see how multinational corporations continue to pump a lot of money into the hands of state actors. Can then be a redefinition of how these funding models are defined, or how they are utilized in a way that to national agencies, but also go to civil society, that can also go to youth organizations and youth innovations that are emerging on the continent. Because for me, I see clearly that a lot more needs to be done to harness the emerging opportunities that young people are leading, whether it has to do with creating a solution to address the SDGs, the 16, 17 SDGs. We can find young people across all of these areas who are coming out with some of the eruptive innovations, but they do not have the necessary resources, whether it is financial, whether it is technical, or the enabling environment to allow them to be able to scale up whatever innovations they have. Government will receive funding from other major agencies to be able to do so, but oftentimes they fail the citizens. In recent times, there has been a program in Ghana, for instance, that has been designed to target young people in agriculture. There were a lot of youth organizations, young people who were so excited about the program. They put in the applications, they went through the process, and that ended the story. They never received the funding to be able to implement their innovation. So if we want to look at the future, there's a need to redefine the funding model, whether it is from multinational corporations or even within our national government. There's a need to redefine that. The last thing that I would like to talk about has to do with how we can break the silos. I think that, again, there are a lot of things that are happening. Young people working in Ghana, in Kenya, if you go to Nigeria, there are several levels of synergies that can be created. But we see a lot, oftentimes, people working in silos. Everybody wants to be their own champions. But if we can create that synergies, that will be able to bring everyone together to be able to exchange knowledge, ideas. I think that Africa will be at a better place into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. That was really insightful. So just so that we can manage our time, I have, as we finalize our fireside chat, and before heading to Q&A, which is already bursting with questions in the chat, I would want to ask us to, in 1 minute, actually, so we have some more time for Q&A, to respond to the question: what are key African interests in reforming the global order? Emmanuel, since you were still on the spotlight, I will ask that you please respond to the question in 1 minute.
I think what we need to do in responding to the global order is to ensure that we have institutions that are functional. We need to strengthen our various institutions to be able to coordinate and harmonize all the potentials that we all bring to the table to ensure that the future can be sustainable and bright for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That was up to time. Prof. Landry, you were up next.
So absolutely. So that is an extremely important question. In my book, Innovating Development Strategy in Africa, the Role of International, Regional, and National Actors. So those are some of the questions that I explore. One thing which is critical is that when we think about multilateralism, we think about the global order, but we sometimes overlook sub-regional dynamics, regional dynamics, and continental dynamics. And many of the critics made by African leaders or even young people at the global level, we see the same type of behavior being reproduced at the sub-regional level. For example, Nigeria will be the hegemon in West Africa, or South Africa will be the hegemon in Southern Africa, or Cameroon, Gabon will be fighting to be hegemon in Central Africa. So I think it's extremely important, first and foremost, to model the action at the sub-regional level that they want to see at the global level. And then, but that it is not mutually exclusive. And at the global level, it is extremely important to continue the efforts to reform the global multilateral system, where resources are not the prominent factors determining the power of the countries, but where the voice, the population also matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nathalie, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think we all know that, and we all see that power are shifting, and this might represent an opportunity for Africa, and more importantly, an opportunity for the young people to enter in coalition. We need to create different coalition of like-minded, like-minded stakeholders including the young people, the youth, to really participate in the conversation. And the role that we see for ourselves at the foundation is really to equip them, to prepare them, to really lead in those conversations and be part of those new coalition.
Thank you so much. To the Q&A segment, we have received so many questions in the chats, and I want to kick off with a question from Josephine for all speakers, which I think will be relevant to all young people here on the call as we work on brainstorming this week. Please, I would appreciate if we could answer our question in 1 or 2 minutes each. So here goes the question. The opportunities in Africa are many, but what can we do as young people about the conflicts between states which constitute barriers for our development? Let me start with Prof. Landry. What would be your advice?
Thank you. I drafted a book chapter on addressing fragility. So, and I think those conflicts between states are one of the biggest challenges that the continent is facing. And I was proposing an approach focusing perhaps on 3 core pillars. So one being focusing on cities, so a city-based approach, as highlighted also by Mayowa. We'll see a fast growth of cities on the continent, from 6 to 17 cities, for example, of more than 5 million inhabitants, and from 3 to 5 cities of more than 10 million inhabitants between 2015 and 2030. So another approach is to focus on implementation. Many of the solutions already exist. The problem is not, we tend to always want to come with new disruptive solutions, where it's mostly addressing the political economy of implementation. What are the vested interests which prevent a successful implementation? And finally, to focus on the role of the private sector. So the private sector should play a key role, because there's no economy without the private sector. The state will not have resources without the private sector. And those enable also, and I conclude with this point, between 2015 and 2035, the continent will have 450 million newcomers in the workforce, and only 25% of these young people can have quality jobs. So this, I connect this with the point made by Nathalie as well, which was that the young people have to be trained and aligned with the skills which are aligned with the future of work, which will unlock the economic potential of the continent, not forgetting productivity.
Thank you so much for that. Nathalie, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think I will echo Maoyo, and I think one example that we have is the pandemic, COVID, and how many African countries just came together and to build a platform for the distribution of vaccination across the continent. We can be creative despite everything, but when we come together and tackle the problem that our continent are facing, it can be powerful. So it can be done.
Thank you. And lastly, Emmanuel, if you could please answer the question.
Well, I think that if we look at the current state of conflict between state and citizens, we have to first of all conduct a diagnosis of why we are in this current situation. I think that if you look at the case of Ghana, for instance, Ghana is quite touted as a very peaceful country, but increasingly we are getting to a level where we see high level of tension between the citizens and the government and the state. The reason has been that there are numerous unaddressed challenges that are facing young people when it comes to access to quality education, when it comes to issues related to employment, access to justice and rule of law. These are emerging challenges that young people are facing, and very often government and the state are left in a state that do not provide satisfactory responses to these questions and these aspirations. Every young person's aspiration is to make it in life. to be able to pursue their dreams, to be able to pursue their careers. So if there is a stumbling block, if there are things that is standing between these things, then you will see them be a little bit reactive. And so I think that addressing the socio-cultural, economic challenges of young people will be very critical, even as we want to build and foster a good relationship.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all. Thank you so much, speakers, for your responses. Now I'm moving on to specific questions directed to specific speakers. So the first one for Nathalie and for Mayowa, we have a question from Busingi Nuruddin. Please forgive me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. So the question: how can the organized youth groups support you in achieving the mission of Young Africa Works and the empowerment of 30 million young people in Africa to get jobs? Did you get the question?
Yes, I can try to answer, because what we're doing in the different country where we work, we're already connecting with those young people. And even through the development of our country strategy, we have consulted largely with the young people to understand where were the jobs, where the attraction, did they need in terms of training, skill, access to finance, etc. And even when we develop programs, through our program design process, at some point consult with young people also as well, different groups. So I don't know if where the person that asked the question in what country they are located, but to be very pragmatic, we have country office in 7 African countries. We are in Kenya, we are in Uganda, we are in Rwanda, we are in Nigeria, Senegal, Ghana, and Ethiopia. So if you are in one of those countries, please reach out and you'll be connected to our country office.
A question from Emmanuel from Philippe. What's your take on emerging trends such as debt reverse narratives, climate injustice claims from youths in the global South?
Well, thank you very much. Well, if you look at the global South, looking at developing countries, you see that indeed, when it comes to issues related to climate change, we has drastically impacted us. We are seeing high rise in sea level. We are seeing the impact on agriculture. We are seeing the impact of energy and all of that. But at the same time, we are also seeing young people at the forefront, leading some of the solutions being developed, from the grassroots level. From our side, we have what we call the SDGs Innovation Challenge, for instance, which is a very hands-on grassroots intervention designed to support young people to come out with solutions that are contributing to reversing some of the impacts that we have seen around climate change. There's a need more for us to continue to engage this diverse group of young innovators, at the grassroots level, at the community level, who are creating solutions to contribute to energy savings, for instance, or who are coming out with new ideas how we can and make agriculture even more productive and more attractive to young people. There are a lot of also intervention around nature-based solutions. What is it that we can do that can reduce the footprint of human activities on the environment, for instance? So there is a need for us to build strong coalition around these emerging solutions that are coming from the grassroots level. How do we showcase these solutions even to the global world? How do we showcase these solutions that are being led by young people to the right policy circles, for instance? How do we ensure that they can get the right investments to scale up whatever innovations that they are creating? I think these are very critical. And in the area of debt exchange, if I got that point correctly, I think that if you look at Ghana's economic situation now, we are definitely in deep crisis in terms of debt, and there is a need for the government, for instance, is coming out with debt restructuring, and this is impacting heavily on the citizens. So we have seen the pensioners, for instance, in Ghana, responding negatively to the approach the government is using to restructure their debt level. We need to look domestically. What is it? How do we mobilize resources domestically to allow us to mitigate some of these impacts that are coming up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have a few minutes left of the session. So I would like to move to a final round of questions to all speakers from Mohammed Irene. And so I would really insist that we use just 1 minute to answer the question. So here goes the question. How can political stable African countries promote similar political environments in the wider continent and support global cooperation across the international system? And would the emergence of Africa be inclusive of all states, or do the speakers believe that certain countries be more prominent? Okay, so I think I will go with Professor Landry first.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So many of the countries which are prominent and stable, including Botswana, for example, are already engaged in sharing their experience with other countries. They don't like the idea of saying teaching or the idea which could be patronizing among other, but I think many of the countries and even some of the countries which could be controversial, like Rwanda, many of the other countries come to them when they need, for example, improvement of state capacity or effectiveness. So that is, so I think those are already ongoing. Again, here the challenge is the challenge of political economy. So are countries, do countries have interest to successfully implement some of the obvious options despite the challenges that they may face? And we are in a world where some country will always be prominent compared to other in at least some area. So what matters is less the fact that one country could be prominent, more prominent than another, than the fact that all the countries should be given a fair, inclusive, let's say, contribution, a seat at the table, so that they can express their voice at the fullest. And let me conclude by saying that we need more women, and not just more women, but we need, with achieving full equality in terms of workplace, the economic output of the continent can increase as much as from 2% to 50%. 50% for the countries which underperform at the lowest. So while we are thinking about global countries, let's also solve the problem that all of us are responsible of. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'll go to Emmanuel. If you could please respond.
Well, I think to add to what Prof said, I first of all, we need to build on the principle of leaving no one behind. And in that sense, we are looking at countries that are weak. Which areas are they weak? And again, we have it from different economic perspective. If it has to do with sports, for instance, which countries are doing well and what can we learn from them? When it comes to managing the economy very well, which countries on the continent do we think are making significant contributions? When it comes to political stability, peace and security in Africa. So for me, it is just a matter of conducting that kind of diagnosis to see who is doing what and what can others learn from that kind of journey. I think that would be very much incredible and would be the future for Africa. We need to leverage upon our collective strengths. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I would go over to Nathalie.
Maybe two things. For me, Rwanda has demonstrated the prominence based on natural resources, not necessarily the case. So that's given opportunity for every African country to identify its unique competitive advantage and really perform in that sense. And once again, AFCTA provides a great opportunity for greater inclusivity. It could increase the divide if we are not intentional on leaving no one behind, as Emmanuel said, but it is an opportunity for greater inclusivity, I think.
Thank you so much. Before I wrap up, I wonder if any other speaker would like to make a final reflection in 30 seconds. It's okay to say no, but it'd be great to hear if any speaker has a final reflection. Going. Okay.
My final reflection is really to express my deep gratitude to you, Kelechi, and to the distinguished other speaker for an incredibly wonderful session, and as well as to the UN Foundation to really creating this space for engagement on critical issues at the forefront of global conversation. So we are very grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So it's going. Okay.
Well, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the discussion and to some of the major recommendations.
Thank you. Nathalie, you're muted, so I guess that's a yes.
Yes, thank you again. Humbled to have been invited here, and we'll need many more conversations like this to really change the narrative of our continents. But congratulations.
Thank you. So I would like to sincerely thank our speakers for their valuable insights. This has been a very rich and interesting discussion, and thank you to everyone that's asked questions so far. As Professor Signé said, there is no greater time than now for accelerating engagement through multilateralism. Our international system is delivering, and it needs to continue to deliver for Africa. Nathalie was mentioning thinking about the jobs of tomorrow, and this is tied in nicely to our session yesterday, on the future of jobs, showing how cross-cutting session today has been interesting. Let's continue to create a coalition of like-minded stakeholders together, leveraging on our collective strengths, like Emmanuel has shared. We should leave no one behind. Mayowa highlighted and just finalized by saying, and I will just finalize by saying that we should all participate, which is what we hope will create a platform to do with the Big Brainstorm. Now, in participating in the Big Brainstorm, I would like to ask that one, we follow us on social media and connect with different innovators. The person with the most likes will be awarded the Mobilizer Award at the Big Pitch on the 28th. Help them rally young people around the solutions. To join us at the Big Pitch on the 20th of February, please scan this code on the screen or visit the URL ourfutureagenda.org/bigbrainstorm. To join any of the future spotlight sessions happening every weekday at 9 a.m. ET till the Big Pitch on the 28th, you can do so via the following link on the screen. Tomorrow is our 5th spotlight session, and we'll be discussing how innovations in technology and storytelling can help us break through. I really hope to see you there. Thank you once again for joining us, and that's a wrap from me.
Thank you.